Thank you. That ends the reading for this morning. And I've asked Alicia to come and share her experience on first half of 12. Is this on? That's on, yes, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia. I am an alcoholic.
Hi, Lisa.
I've been through the process of the steps as they're laid out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with a loving sponsor, fabulous, awesome God. And I practice steps 10, 11, 12 to the best of my ability on a daily basis. I am currently working my amends, and listening to all you folks and your words of wisdom have helped me tremendously. I just finished the process actually a couple of months ago, so I've been out. A few people have asked me to speak, and before, up until this point, I've never done really much in terms of commitments in going out and speaking with a group, which I know is a very important suggestion for a lot of people. But one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why, other than self-centered fear, is because for me it wasn't so much about what my drinking history was like, because I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, and my life was a mess, right? So I don't like to necessarily rehash it, but I know the importance of qualifying for other people. So I do what I'm asked to do, and I want to do it today. I definitely qualify to be here. I will kind of give you a little bit of a background. Honestly, I don't remember my first drink. I remember in third grade, though, they were showing this film about the ramifications of drug and alcohol use. The film was designed to try to scare kids or just bring attention to how bad this lifestyle is. And I remember sitting there in class, and I was so drawn to it. I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. I have no idea why. Honestly, when you think about it, how old could I have been? 8, 9, 10 years old, right? But there was something so alluring about it, and it was like this instant attraction. And I had heard, I'm the youngest out of 6, and it's a pretty wide range in age between me and my siblings. And my older siblings, I knew, were smoking pot and stuff like that, and they were drinking. So I don't know if it was just wanting to fit in or whatever it was, but there was definitely an attraction there. By the time I think I was in 5th grade, I think I started smoking pot. We took a couple of foster kids into our house. Most of my older siblings were out at that time, and they were wonderful for teaching me how to do things. Smoking cigarettes to begin with, Winston cigarettes in the back of some gas station, I don't remember. But I do remember by the time I was in 7th grade, I was smoking pot before school, in middle school, an occasional beer. And fast forward, by the time I was a junior in high school, I was pretty much a daily drinker, blackout drinker at that point. I had stolen one of my older sister's license, and we looked a lot alike, even though she was 6 years older than I was, and I was able to get into nightclubs that way. And so as a result of that, the boyfriend I had for 2 years, he went out the window because he didn't have, an ID to get in, and of course he couldn't drive either, so all that went to the wayside, and drinking became my thing. I grew up in the restaurant business. I was around it all the time. I think I started bartending when I was 10. Of course, it was sodas, but it kind of gave me that identity that I could be somebody. And, so hospitality and drinking and always making sure people feel comfortable by giving them something to drink, it was just innate. I'm Italian, that's the other part of that too. And, it was a lifestyle I loved. But I had no idea the danger. I remember coming home my junior year, one of my high school nights, and I was just out of control. And I think some of the pressure was taken off of me because my older brothers and sisters had gone through it, And by the time I came around, I think my mom just kind of threw her hands up in the air, and she was like done. And so I got away with a lot. And I remember her saying something to me like, I'm going to send you, bless you, send you to Alpatine, or so. She didn't know what she was talking about. And I remember saying to her, you're nuts. What are you talking about? Regardless of the fact that in my bedroom, in my bookcase, I used to collect paraphernalia because I thought it was so cool, like pipes that look like, what are they, like the Egyptian princesses, and I'd walk around with a gold fingernail, do you remember that? I don't know if you remember, like drugs are part of my story, but, thinking I was so cool, I'd have one of those little bullets, keep in my pocket to keep cocaine in, and, I just think to myself, oh my God, I was so freaking lost. No, I don't have a problem, Mom. What are you talking about, right? I almost didn't graduate from college because I have a really big family where I'm from, and I think there are like 48 first cousins. And we had a lot of connections. Most of my family was in business. So senior in high school was just really, honestly, I don't remember a lot. From like my junior year in high school through most of my college, I don't remember. And but senior year, I almost didn't graduate. My grades were just awful. And I was at a parochial high school, and of course my parents were used to bailing me out of a lot of stuff, so I don't know how they finagled it, but somehow I think the nuns wanted me out of there. I got through, and I graduated, and I got into college, believe it or not, but I think the fact that my great-grandfather had donated the science building had something to do with it. So I should not have gotten into school, and the reason why I bring that up is because it was that whole sense of enabling, right? They didn't know what they didn't know. They just thought they were there to kind of fix things, and in a way, thank God for that, because I didn't suffer a lot of those things that I could have suffered as a result of my drinking and my drug abuse. But on the other hand, it prolonged it too, because I didn't have the pain. And anyways, in college, I was in and out. It took me 12 years to graduate. I dropped out. I talk about the grandiose thinking. One year I remember dropping out because I'm going to become a ski bum, right? So I decide I'm going to go up to Sugar Bush Valley and I'm going to ski and, work the clubs, bartending, and just live life. I had a little yellow Jeep, and I, went up there, and oh my God, it's like such a, I don't even remember. I just honestly don't remember. It's all such a blur. And of course, that didn't work out, so I figured I went back to school, go for a semester, flunk out, go someplace else, go down the Cape. It was always that kind of thing. Anyways, early in my 20s, my oldest sister is a therapist, which is a curse in many ways, and she she was doing this paper on alcoholism. And I remember her, I was bartending one night at one of my dad's restaurants because I managed one of them. He owned 3 of them. And I remember talking about it, and I remember for the first time in my life, like I knew that drinking was maybe a problem, because I couldn't seem to kind of get my act together. And I remember telling her, you know what, I think I have a drinking problem. And of course, in my family, when you tell one person, it's like telling friggin' everybody in the town, it's just goes like wildfire. And it's like, oh, wait, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I really don't have a drinking problem, Michelle, cut it, but of course, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So I went to some doctor at Leahy Clinic. He asked me how much I was drinking, and I was like, you know what, not much, maybe 8 drinks, at nighttime when I go out. It's not that big a deal. And he's like, you need to go into detox right away. And I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me, right? Like, you guys are so dramatic about this. But my grades were awful. I was in school at the time and I was flunking out. So I wanted to get the heat off of me a little bit. So I said, okay, I'll go, And I went to Lynn, this place called Mount Pleasant Hospital, for 2 weeks. And that was my first experience with a lot of people that had it real tough time. But what that did to me made me build my defense even higher. Like, I wasn't like them, right? I wasn't like them. I'm just going to ride through this. But of course, the detoxes at that time were great. They had big, nice gyms. They had meditation rooms with like the dentist office chairs in them with the headphones, and you sit and listen to these subliminal messages and like all this sort of stuff. I thought this was great, and but I had no place to go afterwards, and so the guy said, well, let's do a halfway house. I really didn't understand like all of the stuff that was going on, but I had no other place to go, so I ended up at a halfway house in Lynn, the Ryan House, and I'd never been to Lynn in my life, and it was a little bit of a culture shock, and I didn't get it. The thing is, I stayed sober somehow for 4 years. I was doing a lot of commitments. I was sponsoring people, believe it or not, and I remember doing my 4th step, but it was that autobiographical kind. I honestly don't even remember a lot of discussion about the steps. I don't remember anything about the 8th or 9th or anything else beyond that. I just remember we had to do like a 4th step while we were in the house, so I did it and I read it to some sponsor I met. And, you know, and it was good in some sense. I got some, you know, got some of that, those skeletons out of the closet. But there was no psychic change, like I look back at it now, you know. I do remember being sober and sitting at the meetings and saying to people, I am so grateful I am sober today. And I meant it. I really, really meant it. You know, I did not want to go back out. But what I did not gain was how to live life. You know, I thought like my life was only going to be under this AA umbrella. Like I was too afraid to go outside of it, right? I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I had to, my friends no longer wanted to be around me, and how am I going to relate to them, and all of that sort of stuff. I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. And anyways, long story short, got involved in a relationship. You know, this is what they talk about. Some people are sick in the program, but I was involved in a relationship. I was probably 2.5 years sober. He was 10 years sober. We dated for about 2 years, and I found out that he had been cheating on me for a year. And so I moved home to Framingham, which is where I'm originally from. Got away from meetings because in my head, that meant everybody in AA was sick. And you know, they talk about principles above personalities in our traditions, you know, and I didn't get it. It wasn't AA, it was me, A, common denominator with the people I'm picking. And it was really, I look back, it was defending my right to go back out to drink, right? And I did not feel comfortable, got away from meetings, and sure enough, I picked up. And I went out for about 18 years. And during that time, you know, the benefit of being in AA all that time, I did develop some sort of spiritual life. I had a huge spiritual experience, one of those white light moments when I was sober the first time, and somehow I carried that through with me. Like I knew there was something. I knew there was something. I look back now and I know I was just turning my back on God. And I went out, and you know, a year after I had picked up, I met my ex-husband. And just, you know, thought that this is going to be fine, you know, get married. We had lots of friends. We were going out all the time. Had, you know, I don't know, got married within I don't know, year and a half. Had 3 kids off the bat. Blah 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 blah. The whole thing. The problem was, and I held on to that spiritual part of it. So I still tried to do my prayers and things like that. Hated AA. Thought AA was a cult. You know, like get me away from it. But in the back of my mind, it was like, well, as soon as my kids get to a certain age, I'm going to stop drinking again. As soon as they recognize that I drink wine with dinner every single night, I'm going to stop drinking. So as my kids get old and they're asking me why I drink wine every night with dinner, I'd say, well, they say red wine is good for you and you should drink at least a couple glasses every night. I mean, you know, so I'm justifying it the whole way. In the meantime, my whole world is spiraling out of control. My ex-husband and I owned a commercial concrete company. And right around the time that the economy tanked, so did the business. We lost everything. The marriage was really, it wasn't really a marriage to begin with. God bless him. He's you know, he really is a great guy, but I married him because I could get away with my drinking, and I knew that he would let me do that. And it was a mess. By the time I came back in here, I really felt, though, although I had friends, I didn't really have any friends. I felt so alone. I felt like I just didn't know where to turn. But I was not going to come back to AA. So I figured I'd try, you know, rational recovery, moderation management, you know, women for sobriety. If I drink 1 drink a week, you know, all that kind of stuff, I can manage. For about a couple years prior, it just didn't work. And I knew what those things lacked, which was the fellowship of AA. And given me accountability to stay sober. So I remember, you know, I was in therapy. I remember going to my therapist. I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try. And I picked, you know, of course, we all pick these meetings that are like 5 towns away, so nobody's going to know and all this sort of stuff. And I remember going to this woman's meeting, and please, God, please don't let me see anybody I know. I mean, I was in business in the area, and I'm like, you know, and I walk in and I see at least 4 women that I know. I'm like, oh, shit. You know, and I remember one of them came over to me And I just started bawling, and I was like, oh my God, I can't. She's like, honey, don't worry about it. We're all here for the same reason. I'm like, no, but they're all going to know I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, no kidding. We are alcoholics, It's like, yeah, but you don't understand, You don't understand. Thank God for those times. It took me a couple of months. I was still drinking, but I knew I had to come in here and just be quiet and listen. And slowly but surely, these people, took me under their wings. Fast forward 4 years, in 2 bad relationships later, I hit an emotional bottom. Guy I was dating picked up, and it's funny because I look at this step and what they're talking about. If we can't fix anybody, right? I can share my experience, strength, and hope. I think I thought with him that if I could just give him, a little idea of what God is, that somehow he'll get it, and then he'll be sober and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that I didn't care about this person, but I honestly did not get it, right? And I knew I hit an emotional bottom, and I just did not get sober for that. I did not get sober to be just still at a loss with how to live life. And because of that relationship, it's interesting, I ended up changing up my meetings, and I went to a new meeting, and I saw this woman, she's about 4 or 5, and she walks around with a dog, and I think initially if I met her, I probably would have run in the other direction because she scared the hell out of me. But I remember her saying something like, when you go to a meeting and somebody speaks the truth and it just resonates with you, you just know that they're talking the truth. And she said something along the lines like, if somebody says something to you and it rubs you the wrong way, there's usually some truth in it, right? And I was like, oh my God, because I was so defiant about doing the steps this way. That contempt prior to investigation. All these big book thumpers are crazy. I mean, if I just stop drinking, that's all I really need to do. I mean, I'm pretty well off otherwise, right? And so I thought. And but she said that, and I was like, you know what? I had heard about the steps through the big book, and I was ready. I was ready. So I asked her to be my sponsor, and oh my God, it's the best thing. I thank God every day for it. I started the process in February. Finished in August, and I'm telling you, I don't know if I would have been able to stay sober otherwise. When I came in, I remember them talking about the 12th step, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way in hell I'm getting involved with any of these addicts because, I mean, everybody's crazy, and I'm the only normal one, and I don't want to have to, waste my time with that, right? And it's like, I'm sick. It's just like, oh my God, just so sick, and I didn't get it. I did not get it. And doing the work helped me to finally see what my disease was. I think part of the insanity is not only around the drinking. The insanity for me was also the fact that I thought I could live my life without God and manage it on my own. And doing this work made me see that I cannot do that. They talk about in this step about people of faith, right? And how it says that, well, if they had, however deep his faith and knowledge, he could not have applied it or he would not drink. And I remember having conversations with people and saying, if I really believed in God, would I be living my life this way? Which is that. I came in here, I thought I had faith. So, they talk about step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. And it was like, I thought it was saying to me, you should believe in God. So I'd be like, yep, check, move on. Next one. I had no idea, where was the memo about, no, that's not what it's saying. It's saying believing something other than yourself can restore you to sanity, right? Like, I can't do it on my own. That's the powerlessness. And then go into step 3. Yeah, I surrendered, that's it. No. It's making a commitment to do the work, reading the steps and looking at it, and it's saying, you know what, am I willing to make God everything in my life? I'm either walking towards God or I'm walking away from God. What am I going to do? At the time, I felt like I had no options. Thank God I felt that way. But at the time, I had to feel that way in order to open up my mind to do the work. And thank God I did, because I heard somebody speak at a meeting the other day, and they said, understanding follows action. I never got it. I always wanted to have the understanding to convince me why I should do the action, instead of doing the action first and then coming to the understanding, you know, which is what I see now as a result of doing this work. This whole thing is a miracle for me. So I'm working on my 8th and 9th step. I've seen, on my 9th step, I've seen amazing healings take place, especially within my family. I still have many more to go. I do practice 10 and 11 daily. I'm always looking at myself, thank you, God. It's given me the willingness to continue to do that. And finally, you know, over the last couple months, I've had some women approach me and ask if I would help them, you know, take them through this book. And initially I was always like, I have nothing to offer. I don't, you know, I don't know, like, you know how like you come in here and you think you know everything and then you do the work and you feel like you know nothing, you know, and it's like, oh my God. And it's scary too, like, you know, Schultz and Hogan's Heroes, I know nothing, you know. And honestly, I feel like that half the time, but what has been told to me is that the idea is to carry the message, not the mess. I'm not here to co-sign anybody's BS. I'm here to show them what was taught to me on how to do the steps and help them find their relationship with their God. It's not for me to determine who their God is or what they should believe in or anything like that. It's just to show them how to do the steps and be there to support them. And that took a huge pressure off my shoulders. I don't feel like I have to be anything. I can still make mistakes because God knows I have not arrived and will never arrive. And you know what, that's okay too. The last week I have been going through some emotional stuff with yet again another really messed up relationship. I'm still learning. And I was overwhelmed with these emotions. Fear cropped up. And I started beating myself up originally, thinking, like, how could I have done all this work, and how can I be working with other people and feel these emotions, and I've failed somehow and all that. And my sponsor lovingly points out that, you know what, we don't arrive. It's always a learning process. And just because we have awarenesses of like all of our fears and insecurities, which all came about from doing the 4th and 5th step and 6 and 7, doesn't mean they instantly go away. I can tell you a lot of those things have been removed, but there are some pretty deep-rooted fears that I have that will take time, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. I've developed that relationship with God that I know today I can trust and rely on Him, because no matter what happens in my life, I'll get through it without having to turn to alcohol or drugs, which is what I've always done in the past. That is a gift. That is a message that I can carry to anybody else that is struggling. I don't have to be perfect, but I can tell you, in my experience, this is like divine revelation, if you will. You know, I really feel that way about it. And I pray that if you are starting the work, or you're just here listening, you know, I have nothing to lose to come up here and tell you what has worked for me. You have nothing to lose to try it, because really, like, what are you going to lose? So you get a little bit more knowledge about yourself? I mean, is that so bad, right? If you don't like it, then you don't have to practice it, but what do you have to lose? And for me, it's been the best thing that's ever happened in my life, and I thank God every day that I was brought to this, to these meetings in particular, to try to practice this to the best of my ability, and to listen to folks like you who have gone through the process and helped me along the way. I love these meetings so much, and anytime that I can come back and share and try to give back what has been given to me, I'm happy to do. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.